All right, guys, we're back. Round 3. Here we go. So, first off, I will let you know we're going to do a little guided meditation here in a little bit. And some of you off to the side asked me some questions. Everybody's questions, always good questions, usually stirs up something. And, you know, these teachings are great on the level that they are, but it's all about how the teaching then has meaning to you, right? How does it make sense to you? How is it helpful to you? That's what's most important to me, that you carry something home with you that works for you, because that's how it gets paid forward. If I just talk about all this great stuff and then you leave and don't take anything home with you, and then I don't know, I didn't do my job as well as I could have. So anyway, so hopefully I'm helping you to do that already. But if something specific comes to you and you have a question, hey, I have this thing going on, obviously you can catch me in a moment to the side. If it's something super personal and you don't want somebody else to hear it, you could always email me later, but you can also ask me. So if there's any questions that you guys have right now, I guarantee you that somebody at home has a similar question. So if there's any, I have a couple already that I'm going to address that people already asked me about, and I'm going to speak to some of that a little bit. But if there's anything else that anybody wants to put on the table right now, could you address this? Can you tell me about that? How does this relate to this? Go ahead and give it to me. Yes, David.
Diet and Qigong work.
Yes, good. Yeah, good. So question is about diet. So there are some people, everybody has obviously their own plans, their own diets and so on. There's a lot of different things out there and angles of approach. But here's what I would say. Overall, the idea behind Qi and connecting to energy and having good energy and all of these kinds of things is about vitality. Vitality would be related to eating those things that you know are good for you, such as that really green broccoli over at Whole Foods that is organic, right? That I go in there and get all the time. And but I don't spend, in my work, I spend very little time talking to people about diet, except from the perspective that I'm going to give you. My first perspective, I just gave it to you. The healthier the food is, the greater its vitality, the greater its Qi. Here's the thing. Is there anyone in here, show of hands, that doesn't know that information? There's nobody here that doesn't know that information, right? So why do we eat unhealthy things? Have anything to do with addiction? It has to do with addiction. Let's talk about addictions. Because somebody asked me during the break about addictions, I said I'd come back talk about addictions. So we talk a little bit about addictions. We'll talk about addiction in light of food and these kinds of things. First of all, and I'm not going to go into all the details, but I'll hint to a couple of things, and then I'll go into some specific details that I'm going to give you here today. But I want to let you know, literally, not as a sales pitch, just letting you know it's there. We have an entire certification program talking about the levels of consciousness, the levels of your mind related to your energy system. The physical body, the emotional body, the mental aspect of your being, the metaphysical aspects of your being, how those are related to the different chakra centers, how those are related to the dantian. We're not going to be able to get through all that today. But it's important to know that there's this thing. I grew up Catholic, and I'm not anything at the moment. I mean, like, I don't label myself as one thing or the other thing. I've studied with Buddhists and you know, Taoists and so on. I grew up Christian. There are aspects of that teaching that I'm 100% in alignment with. I am not in alignment with guilt tripping. I'm not in alignment with the concept of crucifixion, as if we all got to walk around dragging a cross. Anyway, so myself, and that's just a little hint on my journey. But within the Let's go back to when I had the experience, which I often refer to as some degree of awakening experience, when I healed my spine. I told you I had energy run through me. I told you that I had some healing. I told you that my anxiety attacks left me. I told you that my spine was largely healed, so on. What I didn't say was that, yet anyway, is that I had what some would call in the yogic community, for example, an awakening of consciousness, okay? And what is that? What the heck is that? What does that mean? Well, that means I went from a closed-hearted teenager. I wasn't like that as a kid. I was a very happy kid, very light kid. But growing up at home was tough. And then going to school was in many ways even tougher. We moved a few times, I got bullied, I got picked on, I got beat up, and so hence the martial art journey began. And see, I told you we'd attract somebody. I love it. I love it. There you go. I said, we'll see what the energy brings in. That's beautiful. I love that. That is awesome. That is great energy. The last time I was here, I was teaching in my Kung Fu uniform. And so I'm a man of many costumes. Anyway, I was in my Kung Fu uniform and standing outside, and I see this little boy, and it was like during the break, right? And these people are coming over here, and they're kind of just like that, walking through. And the boy's like, no, Mom, I tell you. And then so she's like, excuse me. And she's like, and I'm like, yeah. And she's like, my son really believes that you used to teach him jujitsu. And I'm like, I did. You know? And then she's like, well, you're right. She's like, I said to him, this is not a jujitsu costume. Like, this is a Kung Fu costume. But it's the same guy. Anyway. So, man of many costumes. So, but during my teen years, I became very hardened emotionally. And I was what you would call an at-risk youth, which luckily I became one of those people who then counseled at-risk youth once I graduated with my psychology degree and so on. I became a supervisor at this hospital, and that was one of the things that I did, counseled kids and so on. It was also where I realized that I had this psychic intuition, because I can read things off of people's energy fields. It just comes to me, and I can say, sometimes I'll tell them what they ate for breakfast, sometimes I'll talk to them about a relationship. It just comes. It just comes. And it started happening to me at that time. And, but that's at like, say, 28 years old. But at 15, I'm smoking pot. I'm doing other kinds of drugs, which I won't name on camera, even though I've done it before. But anyway, and I wanted some degree of spiritual freedom. I was in pain, and I was struggling. Home was not good. School wasn't good. The best thing that happened to me, I skipped a lot of school, man, in high school. I'm making up for it now, but I skipped a lot of school in high school. I spent a lot of time right out there, not actually here. It's a different state, but in the forest. I hid in the forest. I didn't want to be around the kids. I didn't want to be around my parents. I walked 2 miles to school with a bag of books on my shoulder. And then I'd get to school, and they'd be like, there's that fag that carries his books to school. And then they'd start pushing me around and bullying me. So my martial art career was born at that time. And but then I became the hardened karate guy, say, by 25 years old. But I can barely move. Anyway. So then I have the healing. Then this guy's born. My heart softens. My energy softens. I start to have the realization that the law of attraction is like a legit thing. Like, I didn't know I had a sign on my back that said kick me, but I did. I went to school afraid. I went to school being afraid I was going to be picked on. I was. It's all relative, but I thought I was ugly. I thought I was sometimes less than dirt, because that's how I felt at home. So you walk into school that way. People pick up on that. People will key in on that. They'll start to take advantage of that. So I had to find my way back, okay? So when I had the opening, the most significant opening was I had this movement where one of the most significant was I had an opening to it was actually during an acupuncture session. I'd been doing a lot of other things, but I had an acupuncture session, and this woman put in 4 needles, and it was a long time ago, but I'm guessing it was the heart meridian because of what happened. So anyway, so I had this vortex of energy open up in my chest, and I lost awareness of my physical body. Like, I couldn't tell you where my feet or my hands were. My eyes were closed, and my mind was filled with emerald green colors, which is the color of the heart chakra, a lot of people say, and very bright luminescent yellows, which is the color of the solar plexus chakra. I had a lot of spinal issues up through that area. They subsequently cleared, but not only did they clear, I believe we're all psychic, and I believe that we push it down because we're not healed yet. It's actually dangerous to some degree if you're not healed yet, but as you heal and it opens, there's no danger because you have the right mindset, your heart is in the right space. And for me, I'm known in the world that I'm known in as a healer, a very heart-centered healer. That's how I do my healing work. David doesn't really do the healing work. I set David aside, and I let whatever you want to call this come through me. And so that's what happened, and that's what healed the spine. What that did, simply put, you have these 7 chakra centers. They're not as deep as the dantians, but they're related to your physical body. And they're vortexes of energy. As I said earlier, each one is connected to your endocrine system, different sets of hormones and glands and stuff, okay? But it's also connected to and makes up your energy body. And in fact, there are various energy bodies there, but we can also collectively call it an energy body, just like one energy body. And during meditation and during Qigong practice, what we do is we start to turn our attention away from the physical body. And if you stay awake, then what you start doing is you start activating your awareness of your energy body. And if you stay there in that pocket, there are things that you can do internally that then change your external world. Because as you shift your energy inside, you change your energy outside. So I still haven't forgotten about the addiction thing. But right there, I overcame my addictions. Because when I felt that, I said I wouldn't say anything, but LSD and mushrooms never did any of that for me, okay? All those kinds of drugs that I did, even mix them together, put them all in one big package. Let me see how many do this bong hit, smoke that, smoke hash, and drink a couple beers. I'm going to take 4 hits of LSD and some mushrooms and see if I can find God. And I did do that, but I didn't find God doing that. It altered my reality like this much. When I had these experiences, my life is forever altered. This may sound crazy. I'm going to just say it real quick. I'm not trying to be your guru, but I'm just going to say it, okay? I'm not totally here anymore. But I'm not just off over there and I'm out in space and I'm like, my point is, you may discover one day that your energy body is more real than your physical body. I'm going to say it like that. And when you realize that your energy body is more related in the direction of your immortality, perhaps, if you're willing to contemplate an idea like that, then you'll know what I'm talking about. So until then, there's this ladder. There's a reference in the Bible about the fall of mankind, the fall of humans. And mankind and womankind has used this story to enslave people for a long time. Just going to call it right out for what it is. But the fall, talk to a physicist, the fall was a fall in energy. And we know there are these different energies and these different frequencies. And there's the rainbow, right? Roy G. Biv. Red's at the bottom, violet's at the top, right? That rainbow, light comes down through a prism, what happens? Splits it into the rainbow, gets refracted, you get this prism, light split into the rainbow. Coincidence it's the same color of the chakras? I don't think so. I don't think so. Each one of those levels of light has its own lessons and its own challenges. And the fall is this idea that you came from, let's just call it the great light, source, Tao, whatever, all the way down to the physical, to where you vibrate with that of a chair. But here's a mind blow, if it is for you, for some of you, just in one ear out the other ear may not get anything out of what I'm about to say, but some of you might. Depends on your own level of consciousness and your understanding. So, this chair, is it solid?
No.
No. Physicists will say it's not solid. Well, why am I not going through it? Any good answers for why I'm not going through the chair? I'm pushing against the chair. I'm giving you a hint. The chair is pushing against me. That's why I'm not going through the chair. Have you ever taken two magnets of opposite charge, try and push them together? You can't push them together, can you? Well, this chair is vibrating opposite to me. I can't push through it, it can't push through me. We're vibrating opposite to each other. In the middle of space, they can even photograph your body and it's a bunch of dancing molecules around a space. They can't figure out why. Why is it in that space? Why is my body in this space and it's not in that space? What the heck is going on? It's a big mystery. All right, that's just a hint to the mystery. But now what do we know? Some know to some degree. The fall is a lowering of consciousness. Where I'd like to help you get back to is the heart. That is the first metaphysical level within your body. You have higher levels, the throat, the third eye, and where you came from, which is infinite space, infinite God. That's how it's sometimes taught. Anyway, call it the Tao, whatever words you want to use for it. But what I dared to do was start climbing the ladder back up. I didn't know I was doing it, but I was trying to heal myself, right? So in that process, if you think of a container like this bottle of water here, and if we think in terms of the fall, another way that we could describe it is, that would be me like opening this bottle up and dumping out the water. Your vessel then has very little chi in your vessel. You've depleted your chi. Do you understand? When you deplete, listen carefully, if you want to, when you deplete your chi, when you deplete it, you lower your vibration and you're living in lower levels of light and you call it reality, you call it your life. It's not reality. It's one reality amongst many realities. It becomes your reality, and your lower level of chi, open it up, spill it on the floor, your lower level of chi is going to show you very specific realities. So guess what reality it showed me? Parents who were addicted. That's what it showed me. Guess what it showed me? My own addiction. Guess who my friends or my buddies that I hung out with, the two of them that I hung out with? Addicts. So when you talk to me about food, you talk to me about smoking, you talk to me about drugs, you talk to me about alcohol, and you talk to me about addiction, I'm going to talk to you about the chakra centers. And we're talking level 1 all the way at the basement, root chakra. How many people on this planet are addicted to pornography and sex and all kinds of weird guilt, shame, blame games, and I'm going to cause you pain, you're going to cause me pain, I love you, I'm going to leave you, I'm going to cheat on you with her and then him, and then everybody's going to, and then all these people have STDs, and then this one's shooting heroin and that one shoots that one. That is the basement of the chakra consciousness. The basement. People living in their root chakra consciousness. By the way, that's none of you to that degree, because you wouldn't be here today. Give yourself a round of applause for that. You got to climb your way back up, okay? I'm not living there anymore either, because I was living there for a while, and my parents were living there, and I didn't know how to get out of there. So I came from the basement and started climbing my way back up. Built up my energy through these practices, started getting up into the second chakra. The second chakra also has all of its addictions. Your food, your sex, drugs, pain and pleasure is the challenge of the second chakra center. Pain and pleasure. Human beings who have not yet become a little more disciplined, a little more focused, a little more clear, they are always being drawn back to those addictions, which is a certain degree, as it's taught in India, for example, such as called sleep. You fall asleep. You fall asleep into your addictions. You fall asleep into your fears. You fall asleep into your pain. And now you start believing this is my life. And that was me. I had a spinal disease. I had anxiety attacks. I had 2 alcoholic parents that were drunk most of the time. On and on. And, you know, other people had it worse. Their parents were heroin addicts. All right, anyway. Second chakra is always calling you back to pain and pleasure. It tells you, eat this or drink this or whatever because it's going to save you. Avoid that because it's not. Eventually, when you start exercising third chakra consciousness, which is what my book is all about, even though I throw some heart-centered practices in there too, the book, you'll notice its colors. It's red, yellow, orange. The reason for it is this idea of exercising your third chakra center, which is your will and your willpower and some of your discipline to overcome those addictions and to start changing your life proactively. Second chakra consciousness, victim consciousness. I'm a victim to all of this SHIT happening to me in my life. That was me. I lived there, felt it. I know what it's like. What that part of your, because that's a part of your mind. Some call it the ego. That part of your mind, what it doesn't want you to ever like put the pieces together on, because otherwise it would end that level of consciousness. So therefore it can't give you, can't let you sort of figure it out, right? So it's always going to be against you. You go 5 steps and it's going to be like, yeah, you can't go 6, you're a loser. You're like, wait a second, I just went 5. I never even went 5 before in my entire life. It doesn't matter. You can't go 6. Have you ever noticed that if you try and go 6, especially if you try and go 8, that voice starts getting louder and louder? And why aren't we talking about this? Why don't we talk about it? I'm up here admitting all this stuff to you. What am I, insane? I'm out here in public talking about my failures. I'm out here in public talking about these things that I've been through. I'm out here in public talking about the voices that I heard in my head, that I still sometimes hear in my head, telling me I can't. Second chakra consciousness is victim consciousness. Everything I'm teaching you here today, if you practice it, will start uplifting you to third chakra consciousness at least. Because every time you choose to practice standing tree meditation, every single time you choose to practice waterfall, every single time you choose to sit down and do a seated meditation like I'll show you at some point here, you're exercising your will to do it. When Keith got up and he stood there and was showing us standing tree meditation, he told you, it was hard to stand here. What did he have to exercise in order to keep standing there? His will. His emotional body was like, dude, sit down. Quit. Go sit down. He stood there because he's built up some discipline to stay there a little bit longer. And I don't care what the thing is that you're trying to correct in your life, you ain't going to do it in a day. Which is even why, by the way, and I'll recommend it later as well as a reminder to you, we just created in the park, Keith and I, and some others, we created in the park this 21-day Qigong challenge. It's designed very specifically, 21 days. Why? Because they say, in psychology and so on, as you know, I'm into psychology, it takes 21 days to create a new habit. So whatever this stuff is that you tell yourself, like, oh, I got to go big or go home. No, you don't. You got to be consistent for 21 days. For 21 days, you got to do 10 minutes of something. I know some of you are practicing it already at home, many more than 21 days. Who's practiced it longer than 21 days? Shout out how many days you practice it. Do you know? 42? How many?
Probably about 50.
50. So you're gaining momentum, and it takes your will to make that happen. And to go back to the material, you have the material ongoing. But to go back to the material, it takes some discipline. A lot of people, it's only 10 minutes a day. Can be only 10 minutes a day for 21 days. But you go and you practice, I forgot. Well, that's convenient. For your second chakra, it's very convenient. Because now you get to stay stuck in feeling sorry for yourself, and now you get to stay stuck in your addictions. And listen, I've trained very hard, extreme hard, let's say, martial arts, running, all this, lifting, all kinds of things that I've done athletically, okay? I'm not bringing you that, am I? How hard is this Qigong? It's a lot easier than taking you on a marathon. But it's its own kind of marathon. But done day after day, month after month. In fact, I just put a video out on YouTube. Runner's high versus Qigong high. You can stand in your living room and hit the same thing. For most people, even runners, I'll bring in runners or meditators. I'll have them stand in standing tree meditation, and they're shocked that they're hitting the same emotional internal experience that they hit at mile 13 of their marathon. They didn't even leave the living room. And we did it in less than 30 minutes. Because you're having to work through those energy bodies. So, what you should make note of here is that any time you exercise your willpower, you're actually calling the energy higher up into your solar plexus. Do you know what they call this solar plexus here? Any yoga people who know what the solar plexus is called? Aside from the solar plexus chakra, does anybody know? The power center. It's referred to as the power center. It's symbolized with an image of a sun here. It's this center that changes your world. But sometimes, in order to change your world, you have to not eat until noon. And you have to go to your Qigong practice, and you have to go to some type of breath. You might have to go to a posture. And then you start going. That's me exercising my will. That's me exercising my meditation. And some people, probably like Bruce Lee when he came out in the martial art community, he did things different. I like Bruce Lee a lot, and I do things differently. The Qigong community, some people like me, some people not that crazy about me. Why? Because I talk about all this stuff. They just want to move in the park. And that's fine. That's wonderful. Nothing wrong with that. It's one of the things that we do. But because of how I got to where I am, I'm just on a different path. I'm on a different path. And it's my job. I've made it my job for 30 years now to just give you this information that I'm learning and to empower you wherever you're at so you could take the next step in your life. And I believe that by doing that, my life gets better, and that's how it's been the entire time. So if you haven't done 21 days of a challenge, then do the 21 days. If you haven't done 5 days, do 5 days. If you leave here and you're like, I don't think I can do any of that, then practice for 3 minutes. And here's the other thing about me, okay? I told you already, I practice. That's what I do. I don't just, oh yeah, you guys go practice. I practice. So I have all these different opportunities for your practice. If you're local, come take Qigong class. If you want to come to a seminar and dive into a weekend, take a weekend. You're like, oh no, I can't, I don't live here. That's fine, we've got 21-day Qigong challenge on, on YouTube. You're not sure, how does this all come together on the level of mind? Got the book. Like every single angle, it doesn't matter to me on the level that it doesn't. Where do you engage? I'm hoping to just give you whatever the next thing is that then allows you to go to the next level. So if you want to get over those addictions, come back to the idea of the water and think of the water as qi. You have to start filling your cup. As you fill your cup, not only will it heal your body and make things change and heal in your body and transform in your body, it is going to change your perception, how you see the world. There are ancient spiritual teachings that said, do not seek to change the world, seek instead to change your perception of the world. Do you know that after I had that experience, I'm the guy that used to literally walk into a room and 3 guys wanted to beat me up. I was that guy. But then after that shift happened, I was the guy that would walk in and I would sit down at the bus stop, and this has never stopped. I sit down at a bus stop or something, a stranger sits down next to me and they start gazing at me, and I just see them, they're gazing at me. And so I'm like, okay, just let them gaze. And the next thing, they're just continuing to gaze. So then I kind of look, I nod, and then they're locked in on me. They're just looking. And I know they're not looking at me physically because they're looking through me. I can feel it. And then they start crying. And then they tell me, I don't know why I'm crying. And I say, it's okay. And I just sit there with a stranger, and they're crying on the street. The healer lives inside of you. It's a level of consciousness that starts at the heart level. And if Jesus' teaching and Buddha's teaching are true, which I believe that they are because I've proved it with my own life, to myself anyway, Jesus said, as you give, so shall you receive. A lot of people have interesting ideas about what that means, but in general, that's the teaching. And then the Buddha said, karma. As you sow, so shall you reap, Jesus said. Buddha called that karma. The physicists say for every action, there's an opposite and equal reaction. The only way we get away with believing that we can get away with bad stuff, do something bad to somebody else, dump some toxic waste in that river, didn't have anything to do with me. It's made a few $1 million, I can just go over here. The only reason we believe we can get away with it is because of the illusion of time. You're only going to escape your karma for a while. It catches up to every criminal. It catches up to every bad person. But here's the good news. It catches up to every person who's acting out of kindness. Every person who's acting out of compassion. At 21 years old, I hadn't even had my awakening yet. The same teens had grown up. I was a personal trainer in a gym. They had grown up, I grew up, we were about 21. They all came walking in the door, the whole crew that I had that picked on me and I had all kinds of issues with, man. Hatred toward, actually. And it was the same for them. And I was outnumbered. And they came walking into the gym. I immediately felt it in my body. Whoa, here they come. Here comes a whole football team, And I walked right up to the guy who was the biggest nemesis. And I said, I just want to say I'm totally sorry for all that crap that went down in high school. I've changed. I had a tough childhood. Things weren't good at home, blah, blah, blah. Shook his hand. He was like, same. He's like, you know, totally apologized to me. I apologized. Some of the other guys were still literally like, F you. I was like, that's fine. You know, come to the gym anytime you want. I'll be here. You know, and I just totally changed that. Anyway, that level of consciousness lives in you. And it doesn't mean everybody's going to like you, because not everybody likes me. It doesn't mean nobody's ever going to try and give you a hard time. Every once in a while it happens. It's fine. That's what boundaries are for. But as you come up that ladder, exercising your own will, you'll step out of addiction. And when you step out of your addictions, the people who show up in your life, your Groundhog Day, are not as challenging as the people who used to show up. You guys are in my Groundhog Day. Groundhog Day, right? The movie, everything's repeating over and over again, but you guys are in my new and improved Groundhog Day. Everyone here, I guarantee you, is much nicer than the people that I grew up with when I was going through what I was going through. Just like the little girl who came to the door. I was talking about law of attraction, and there comes the little girl, and she's looking in the door, right? You can start attracting those kinds of things, loving experiences and kindness and so on. But in order to have that, you have to bring that to your own body first. You have to get in touch with your energy system. You can't just be disconnected from it. And if you start tuning into it and exercising some degree of will, I'm not talking about running marathons. I'm not talking about even what Keith did. But some degree of exercising your will over your energy body, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever, you're going to see your months and your years improving. And if you get a little more specific in the work, which might require you stick around a little more, but if you get a little more specific in the work, you can actually then also heal and address specific conditions. Because you'll know this is related to the liver, this is related to the kidneys, I got X, Y, and Z going on in my throat, and then you can start to address it from the Qigong science, if you will, to start to unwind some of these things. Not to dismiss our Western medicine in any way, shape, or form, but to work in conjunction. And it's wonderful. It's a thing that I've just done for years. My clients tend to come and they say, I have this test result, this is what happened, da-da-da-da-da. But just like the guy I told you about, he then goes back to his physician. It's his physician that then says, you actually don't need the gallbladder surgery. I didn't say it, and I'm not going to say it. His physician said it. If you can change test results, which you can, and students do all the time, that's another level of the practice as well, where you can shift it. But that's how it all works, and that's how you come out of addiction and start climbing the ladder. And once you get through the third center, we could talk more about it, but then you start moving toward the love center, which is not just I love everybody everywhere all the time, but it is starting to have more of that quality, okay? Because it's a more spiritual quality. So, before we part for lunch, we're going to take a break. Everybody take an inhale through your nose, if you would. Exhale your breath through your mouth. It's more grounding when you exhale through your mouth. It's one of the reasons we exhale through the mouth. Inhale through the nose. Exhale through the mouth. And then one more. Inhale through the nose. Exhale through the mouth. And then take your fingers and hands and just kind of go like this, because you may not realize it, but when we have those conversations, your energy goes very inward. So just bring it back out to your outer body. Excellent.